You know, in business and in life, people always talk about winning. They forget sometimes the real power is in walking away. When you return something that the other side thinks you desperately need, you are not just saying no, you are sending a message far louder than any negotiation. This is not about anger. This is not about shouting. This is about quiet strength, the kind of strength that makes the other side stop and rethink everything they assumed about you. India did slam the door. It did throw a tantrum. It simply placed the fighter jets and weapons back on the table and said, "We don't need this." That moment changes the game. Because real revenge is not about hurting someone, it's about proving you no longer depend on them. Power is a word that people often misunderstand. Many believe it's measured by the size of your army, the wealth in your bank, or the influence you hold over others. They think it's about control, about collecting as much as you can and never letting go. But true power is not about accumulation, it's about choice. It's about the rare ability to say, "I can take this, but I don't have to keep it." Because the moment you give something back, especially when everyone thinks you desperately need it, you change the way people see you. You break the script they had in their mind about you. You make them realize that you operate on a different level. Think about it. In the world of business, politics, or even relationships, most people fight to get more and more deals, more resources, more allies. They believe that having more means they are winning. But sometimes, when you give something back voluntarily, it's far more powerful than taking it in the first place. It sends a signal that you are not defined by what you hold in your hands, but by the strength you have inside. When you return something, you are saying, "I have other ways to win. I am not chained to this." That's when the other side begins to respect you, not because you accepted their offer, but because you could walk away from it. India's decision to return the American fighter jets and weapons is a perfect example. This was not a small gesture. These were assets worth billions, representing advanced technology and strategic advantage. Any country would see value in holding onto them. And yet, India chose to give them back, not out of weakness, but out of the understanding that real strength doesn't come from borrowing power. It comes from building your own. When you reject something you don't truly need, you're telling the world you are confident in your own abilities. You are making a statement without even raising your voice. This move also shifts the balance in relationships. In any exchange, when one side depends too much on the other, the power tilts. The supplier feels superior, the receiver feels bound. But when you show that you can survive without what is being given, you take back control of the relationship. You turn dependence into independence. And that is where real negotiation power lies. The ability to say no and to stand behind it creates a different kind of respect that cannot be bought or forced. In the eyes of the world, this return wasn't just a political decision. It was a strategic statement. Every other nation watching will take note. They will understand that India is not playing the game of short-term games. It's building something long-term. They will think twice before assuming India can be swayed by the promise of military technology or foreign partnerships. And that changes how the game is played. It's no longer about what India can get from others, it's about what India can do on its own. In life, the same principle applies. If you can only feel powerful when you are holding onto something that money, a title, a position, or relationship, then your power is fragile. Because the day the thing is taken away, so is your confidence. But if you can stand tall without it, if you can willingly give it up, You show the world that your power was never dependent on it in the first place. That is the kind of power people remember. That is the kind of power that makes even your rivals stop and admire you. There is also an emotional element to this kind of decision. Giving something back requires self-control. It requires vision. Because in the moment, it's tempting to keep what you're given, even if it comes with strings attached. It's tempting to think, maybe I can use this to my advantage later. But wisdom teaches us that some things cost more to keep than they do to give up. Some deals come with invisible chains, and by handing them back, you are freeing yourself from those chains before they tighten. When a nation or a person reaches a level where they can reject something valuable without hesitation, it means they have already prepared themselves for the alternative. India returning those fighter jets wasn't an impulsive decision, it was the result of preparation, planning, and confidence in their own path forward. You can only make that move when you are certain that your future does not rely on what's being offered to you. And that certainty is the foundation of unshakable strength. It's also a test for the giver. When you return something, you are forcing the other side to reflect on their own intentions. Were they giving it to help you, or to bind you? Were they expecting gratitude, or obedience in return? By rejecting it, you challenge them to reconsider how they deal with you in the future. And often, that leads to a healthier, more balanced relationship, because they can no longer assume you will say yes to everything they put on the table. In many ways, power is less about possession and more about perception. The image of someone willingly letting go of something valuable stays in people's minds. They ask themselves, if they can give that up, what must they have in reserve? How strong must they be to not need this? That curiosity, that respect, becomes its own form of influence. And influence, unlike possessions, cannot be taken away easily. It is built over time, through actions that speak louder than demands. So, when we talk about giving back as a sign of strength, it's not just about the physical act, it's about the message behind it. It's about showing that you are bigger than the moment, bigger than the offer, and bigger than the need for someone else's resources. It's about telling the world, I choose my own path, and I am prepared to walk it without shortcuts. The strongest negotiation move is walking away without fear. In every deal, in every discussion, there is a moment when the balance of power is tested. Both sides are trying to rid each other to see who needs the agreement more. Most people assume that the one who speaks louder, pushes harder, or demands more is the one in control. But in reality, the person or nation who can stand up, smile, and calmly walk away holds the real advantage. Walking away is not about aggression, it is about certainty. It says, I know my value, and I will not settle for less than what I believe is right. That kind of confidence cannot be faked for long, it has to be real. Fear is what keeps most people locked into bad deals. They fear losing the opportunity. They fear what others will think if they don't close the deal. They fear they won't find a better option. And fear is exactly what the other side counts on to push you into accepting terms that don't benefit you. The moment you remove that fear, you remove their leverage. You show them that your survival, your progress, your success does not depend on their offer. This is why walking away is so powerful, it flips the pressure. Instead of you worrying about losing them, they start worrying about losing you. India's choice to return American fighter jets and weapons was exactly that kind of move. It was a negotiation in action, even if no words were spoken at the table. I saying we don't need this. India showed that it had other paths forward. This was not a reckless gamble. It was a calculated statement. It told the world that India was not going to be cornered by dependency. It was not going to sign agreements that didn't align with its vision for the future. This type of decision sends a clear message not only to the party you are dealing with, but to everyone else who is watching. And in geopolitics, just like in business, everyone is always watching. Walking away without fear does not mean you ignore opportunities. It means you evaluate them with clarity, and if they don't meet your principles, your long-term goals, or your sense of fairness, you are ready to reject them, no matter how attractive they may look in the short term. Many people confuse boldness with stubbornness, but boldness is walking away because you have prepared for the alternative. You have built the resources, the plans, and the resilience to move forward without the deal in front of you. Stubbornness is saying no without a backup plan, and that often leads to regret. The real power move is when you can say no and mean it because you know exactly what you will do next. In every high-stakes negotiation, there is an invisible test happening. The other side is asking themselves, how badly do they need this? If they sense desperation, they will push for terms that serve them more than you. But if they sense confidence, serial, unshakable confidence, that they will think twice before pressing too hard. In some cases, they might even improve their offer just to get you back to the table. This is the beauty of walking away without fear. It not only protects you from a bad deal, it often earns you a better one. The act of walking away is also deeply psychological. When you leave the table, you take back control of your time, your attention, and your options. You stop letting the other side define the boundaries of the conversation. This is why so many great leaders and negotiators use silence, delay, or even complete withdrawal as part of their strategy. They understand that absence can create more urgency than presence. When you're no longer there, they can't read your reactions, they can't measure your willingness, and they can't pressure you directly. That mystery works in your favor. It's also important to recognize that walking away without fear comes from preparation. You can't walk away if you've placed all your hopes, resources, and plans into a single deal. You can't walk away if you have no alternatives. This is why preparation is the invisible foundation of power. India could send back the fighter jets because it had the capacity to develop its own solutions and alliances. In business, a company can reject an unfavorable contract when it has built a strong customer base elsewhere. In life, a person can refuse a toxic relationship when they have a strong sense of self-worth and independence. The courage to leave comes from knowing you have already built the means to thrive without what's being offered. Walking away also resets the tone for future dealings. Once you prove you are not afraid to leave, people will approach you differently. They will respect your boundaries more. They will think more carefully about what they offer, and they will hesitate to present you with something that falls short of your standards. The first time you walk away might be the hardest, because it feels like you're giving up something valuable. But once you see the long-term benefits, you realize you've actually gained more than you lost. And there's another layer to this: the example it sets. When you walk away without fear, you inspire others to do the same. Whether it's other nations, other companies, or individuals watching your decision, you demonstrate that it's possible to reject a deal and still succeed. That kind of leadership is rare, but it creates ripple effects. People begin to believe They too can negotiate from a position of strength rather than desperation. When you think about the great turning points in history, in business, and in personal lives, many of them began with someone saying, "No, this is not the path I choose." That single decision can change the entire trajectory of a situation. It can turn a disadvantage into leverage. It can transform a relationship from one-sided to balanced. And it all starts with the ability to walk away without the shadow of fear hanging over you.